Right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep today into the world of DreadKnots 1.
DreadKnots 1, okay.
Yeah, so DreadKnots 1 is a content creator, and they're really making waves in a couple of different spaces. We've got the gaming scene, the crypto scene, and something that's maybe a little bit different, but also super interesting. DreadKnots 1 is a passionate advocate for dreadlock culture. And that kind of, the blend of these topics is what really caught my eye. So to get into this deep dive, we've got a couple of sources to work with. We've got DreadKnots 1's website.
Okay.
And we've also got this fascinating blog post that they wrote called The History of Dreadlocks, From Jamaica to the Caribbean Roots.
Interesting. Yeah, the blend of those things is really interesting. You know, it's not every day that you find someone who's kind of seamlessly moving between like Black Ops 6 strategies and like Bitcoin breakdowns and then also talking about the cultural history of dreadlocks. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And that's what I thought too. Like I said, that's what made me want to kind of take this deep dive. I'm a gamer myself, and I've been trying to wrap my head around crypto for a while now, and seeing someone kind of like connect those interests with such a rich cultural element, it just screamed deep dive.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, it's such a unique blend. And you know what else is really intriguing to me? DreadKnots 1 is actively using AI tools like NotebookLM in their content creation process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like they're not just talking about the future of content, they're living it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's cutting edge.
Yeah. NotebookLM, it's that tool that kind of acts like a super-powered research assistant, right?
Yeah.
I've heard about it, but to be honest, I haven't really seen how it's being used effectively by creators, so I'm curious to kind of see what they're doing with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to get a handle on sometimes how these tools can be helpful. So it'll be interesting to see what DreadKnots 1 is doing with it. And they are doing a lot with it, like in one of their Black Ops 6 strategy videos.
Oh, okay.
They use NotebookLM to like analyze a ton of gameplay footage and identify patterns that most players wouldn't even notice.
But wait, hold on. So they're not just using AI to like, generate scripts or something basic.
Right.
They're actually using it to gain like a competitive edge in their gameplay. That's wild.
Yeah, it is. And it just speaks to their kind of forward-thinking approach, They're not afraid to experiment with new technologies and kind of push the boundaries of what's possible in content creation, which is really cool. And that innovative mindset,
Sure.
It also extends to their exploration of crypto, which we should talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk crypto.
Yeah.
It can feel like a bit of a minefield out there.
Yeah, it can.
Especially for beginners.
Sure.
And DreadKnots 1 seems to be focusing on Bitcoin, which is arguably the most well-known cryptocurrency out there, but it's still really complex.
It is, yeah.
What's their approach to it? What are they doing with crypto?
Well, so they've created these exploring crypto together sessions, and what they're doing with those sessions is breaking down these complex concepts into like bite-sized pieces that anyone can understand. So, for example, in one session, they tackled the concept of blockchain, which is like basically the technology that underpins Bitcoin.
Right.
And they did it by comparing it to like a digital ledger that everyone can see and verify.
Okay.
Which is actually a really, really helpful analogy, I think.
Yeah, that's a really helpful analogy. I've tried reading explanations of blockchain before, and it just like goes over my head.
Right.
But comparing it to like a shared ledger that everyone can access, yeah, that makes so much more sense.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of their approach, I think. They're not just throwing jargon around. They're making these complex topics accessible and relatable, and it's clearly resonating with their audience too. They've even got like a testimonial from someone who said that they finally felt confident enough to invest in Bitcoin after attending these sessions.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to have creators who can like bridge that gap,
Yeah.
between the complexities of something like crypto and the everyday person who just wants to understand the basics.
Totally. Yeah. It's about building trust.
Yeah.
And empowering people to, make informed decisions. But, what really fascinates me is how DreadKnots 1 ties all of this back to their passion for dreadlock culture,
Yeah. The blog post.
The blog post.
The History of Dreadlocks, From Jamaica to the Caribbean Roots.
Yeah.
It seems like such a personal deep dive for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, as a Puerto Rican American, DreadKnots 1 brings this really unique perspective to the to the discussion, I think. They're not, they're not just recounting historical facts. They're sharing like a lived experience, a connection to a cultural heritage that runs deep. It's very personal.
And it's more than just a hairstyle, right? It's about identity. It's about heritage. It's about resistance.
Yeah.
Like all these layers of meaning are kind of woven into those locks.
Absolutely. And Dreadknots 1 starts by taking us all the way back to the African roots of dreadlocks. Tribes like the Maasai and the Himba have worn dreadlocks for centuries, often as a symbol of strength, spirituality, connection to the divine.
Yeah. I'll admit my knowledge of dreadlocks is pretty limited. I've always associated them with, reggae music and the Rastafarian movement. But it sounds like there's a whole like deeper history that I'm completely unaware of.
Oh, there is, and it's a history that's deeply intertwined with resilience and resistance. When enslaved Africans were forcibly brought to the Caribbean, they brought their traditions, including dreadlocks, with them.
So even in the face of like unimaginable hardship, they held on to these traditions as a way to connect with their heritage.
Right.
That's incredibly powerful.
It is. And in the Caribbean, dreadlocks, they evolved. They took on new meanings as symbols of resistance against colonial powers and a reclaiming of African identity.
And this is where Jamaica and the Rastafarian movement come in.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the 1930s, Rastafarianism emerged in Jamaica.
Okay.
And dreadlocks became a central symbol of the movement
because of the biblical connections, right? Like Samson in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Who drew strength from his hair.
Yeah, exactly. That's one interpretation, For Rastafarians, dreadlocks also represented a rejection of Western beauty standards and a connection to their African roots. Yep. They saw Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia as a divine figure.
Okay.
And his own dreadlocks further solidified their significance within the movement.
It's fascinating how a hairstyle can hold so much meaning, so much history. It's like a visual representation of a culture's struggles, beliefs, and aspirations.
It really is.
All kind of wrapped up in how they wear their hair. It's really powerful.
Yeah. And it's a story that, Dreadknots 1 makes incredibly personal. They talk about growing up surrounded by reggae and dancehall music, even though their parents were more into salsa.
Wait, so they had this like clash of musical cultures happening at home. Reggae versus salsa, that's a really interesting dynamic.
It is. Yeah, it is. And they describe it so vividly, this blend of Puerto Rican, American, and hip hop influences that shaped their upbringing in Boston and later Florida.
Okay.
They even tell a story about a house party where everyone was like seamlessly dancing to both dancehall and salsa.
That's awesome.
Which is, a perfect reflection of that cultural fusion.
I love that. It's like they're showing how these seemingly like separate worlds can actually like coexist.
Yeah.
And even enhance each other. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about embracing the richness of all those influences.
Exactly. And that's what makes their deep dive into the history of dreadlocks so compelling. They're weaving together the grand like historical narrative with their own personal experiences, creating this tapestry that's both informative and incredibly relatable.
It sounds like Dreadknots 1 is a master at blending their personal journey with these larger cultural movements.
They really are, yeah. And it's especially evident when they broaden the scope to the wider Caribbean. They talk about Jamaica, they talk about Puerto Rico, they talk about the Dominican Republic, all these islands with this shared African heritage, but also distinct cultural expressions influenced by their colonial pasts,
Right, like how language plays a role. So Jamaica was a British colony, so English is their primary language, right?
Right.
While Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic were Spanish colonies.
Exactly.
So they have those influences as well.
Yeah, and Dreadknots 1 even mentions their own experience growing up, speaking Spanish at home, English at school, and Spanglish within their community. which is, a perfect example of how these linguistic influences, shape Caribbean identity. And it's like, fascinating how this linguistic diversity kind of parallels the evolution of dreadlocks themselves. Like, while they share a common, African origin,
Right.
they've been shaped and reshaped by each island's, unique history and cultural influences.
Yeah.
So like in Jamaica, for instance, you see a really strong connection between dreadlocks and the Rastafarian movement.
Right.
But in other parts of the Caribbean, like the styles and symbolism might differ slightly.
It's like a family tree, isn't it? You have the roots in Africa, and then the branches spread out, across the Caribbean. Each branch kind of develops its own unique character,
Right.
while still being part of the same tree.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And despite these these variations, there's this shared thread of resistance and identity
Right.
that runs through it all.
Yeah, and that brings us back to DreadKnots 1 and their mission, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not just exploring the history of dreadlocks. They're actively advocating for their continued significance as a symbol of empowerment.
Exactly. They're challenging the stereotypes and misconceptions that often surround dreadlocks, especially in Western societies.
Yeah, because let's be real. There's still a lot of prejudice out there. People with dreadlocks are often judged or discriminated against based solely on their hairstyle.
Unfortunately, that's true. And DreadKnots 1 is pushing back against these narrow views by showcasing the beauty, the diversity, and the cultural richness associated with dreadlocks.
It's funny because even I have to admit, like, my initial perception of dreadlocks was probably shaped by those stereotypes. I remember growing up, my parents would tell me not to grow my hair too long because it would look, messy or unprofessional.
It's amazing how deeply ingrained those societal norms can be.
Yeah.
And it often takes, conscious effort to unlearn those biases and appreciate the beauty and diversity of different cultural expressions.
For sure. And I think that's where DreadKnots 1's work is so crucial. They're not just educating, they're advocating for a shift in perspective. They're saying, hey, these locks are more than just hair. They're a statement of identity, a connection to history, a form of art.
And they're doing it in a way that's both informative and engaging. They're not preaching, they're not lecturing, they're sharing their passion and knowledge in a way that invites conversation and understanding.
Right, which brings me back to something that you mentioned earlier, the whole entrepreneurial aspect of DreadKnots 1. The Squid Game themed Black Ops 6, cosplay merch and all that.
Yeah.
I have to admit, like when I first saw that, I was like, okay, this is a little gimmicky.
Right.
But now seeing how deeply they're connected to both the gaming community and the dreadlock community, it makes more sense.
You see, that's what I find so compelling about their approach. They're not just chasing trends. They're strategically aligning their passions with their entrepreneurial ventures. They're creating this unique space where their interests intersect and amplify each other.
Okay, I see what you mean. So it's not just about like slapping a popular theme on some merch and calling it a day.
Right.
It's about creating something that genuinely resonates with their audience and reflects their multifaceted identity.
Exactly. And don't forget, like, those testimonials we saw earlier, the people who were raving about their content creation workshops and gaming strategy sessions.
Right. It's not just about the flash. There's substance behind it.
Yeah.
They're actually like sharing valuable knowledge.
Yeah.
And helping people level up their skills, whether it's in gaming, content creation, or even navigating the world of crypto.
Exactly. And they're doing it all while staying true to their core values of fairness, inclusivity, and transparency.
Right. Okay, so we've got gaming, we've got crypto, we've got cultural exploration, we've got entrepreneurship. It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
But somehow DreadKnots 1 manages to make it all feel like cohesive and dare I say, cool.
It's like they're defying the expectations of what a content creator should be.
Yeah.
You know, they're breaking down those artificial barriers
Yeah.
between categories and saying like, hey, I can be passionate about all these things, and I can weave them together in a way that's both, you know, meaningful and entertaining.
And let's not forget the AI piece of the puzzle.
Right.
It's almost like they're a cyborg of content creation.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
using these tools to enhance their work and reach a wider audience.
That's a great way to put it, and it speaks to their adaptability and willingness to embrace new technologies. You know, they're not just riding the wave of innovation. They're actively shaping it.
It's inspiring, to be honest. It makes me want to kind of like push myself creatively and explore new ways to blend my own, you know, my own interests.
I think that's the takeaway here. You know, DreadKnots 1 is showing us that we don't have to, you know, limit ourselves to one box, one label, one passion.
Right.
We can be multifaceted, complex, and constantly evolving.
And that's a message that resonates deeply in today's world, you know?
Yeah.
Where we're constantly bombarded with pressure to fit in, to specialize, to pick a lane and stick to it.
Right.
DreadKnots 1 is proving that we can, you know, we can carve our own path. We can blend our passions, and we can create something truly unique and authentic in the process.
And they're doing it with style, substance, and a whole lot of heart.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of substance, let's circle back to their exploring crypto together sessions for a moment.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier how they break down these complex concepts in a way that's easy to understand.
Yeah.
But it's more than just simplification. It's about empowerment. You know, they're not just giving people the fish, they're teaching them how to fish.
Right. Like that example you gave about the blockchain analogy, you know. Comparing it to a digital ledger that everyone can access, that's not just dumbing it down, it's making it relatable, you know, and demystifying something that can feel like incredibly intimidating.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that DreadKnots 1 goes beyond, you know, just explaining the basics. They delve into the potential impact of crypto, particularly Bitcoin, on a global scale. So, for example, they talk about how Bitcoin can be this powerful tool for financial inclusion, right? Especially in developing countries where access to traditional banking systems is limited.
Whoa, I hadn't even considered that angle. So they're not just like promoting Bitcoin as an investment opportunity.
Right.
They're exploring its potential to create like positive social change.
Exactly. And they tie this back to their core values of fairness and accessibility. Yeah. You know, they see crypto, particularly Bitcoin, as a way to kind of level the playing field. Yeah. And empower individuals who have been, you know, traditionally excluded from the financial system.
That's a really powerful message, and it adds a whole other layer of depth to their exploration of crypto.
Yeah,
it's not just about making money, you know. It's about creating a more equitable and accessible, you know, financial future.
And that's where their authenticity shines through, I think. You know, they're not just hopping on the crypto bandwagon for profit. You know, they're genuinely passionate about its potential to change the world for the better.
It's like they're saying, hey, let's use this technology to build a more just and equitable future. And let's do it together.
And that collaborative spirit is evident throughout their work, whether it's in their exploring crypto together sessions, their content creation workshops, or their online community where they foster, you know, open dialogue and knowledge sharing.
Right. Yeah. They're creating this space where everyone feels welcome, you know, regardless of their background or level of expertise. And that's something truly special. It's like they've tapped into this universal human desire to connect, to learn, and to grow together.
And that's what makes DreadKnots 1 such a compelling figure. You know, they're not just a content creator. They're a community builder. They're a knowledge sharer. They're an advocate for positive change.
Yeah, they're a true original.
They are.
And this deep dive has been a testament to that.
Yeah, it really is remarkable, how DreadKnots 1 manages to bring all these different elements together. The gaming, the crypto, the cultural advocacy, and make it feel like a cohesive whole.
It's like they found that sweet spot where passion and purpose and creativity all kind of intersect. And what I find particularly inspiring is their commitment to using their platform, for good.
Right. Yeah. They're not just building a brand for themselves, They're building a community.
Yeah.
That's grounded in shared values and a desire to make a positive impact. And I think that's what resonates so deeply with their audience,
Yeah, it's like they're saying, "Hey, come join me on this journey of discovery, exploration, and empowerment."
It's an open invitation.
And it's an invitation that's hard to resist.
Especially in a world that can often feel like, divided and cynical.
Yeah, for sure.
DreadKnots 1 offers this refreshing dose of optimism and a reminder that we can use our passions to connect with others and make a real difference.
And they're proving that you don't have to choose between being entertaining and being informative.
Right.
Between building a business and building a community.
Yeah.
Between celebrating your heritage and embracing new technologies.
Yeah, they're showing us we can be these multifaceted, these complex individuals, who embrace all aspects of ourselves.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of awe and a renewed belief in the power of individual passion to ignite, positive change. DreadKnots 1 has shown us that when we combine our unique interests, with a genuine desire to connect and make a difference, the possibilities are truly limitless.
I couldn't agree more. They've given us a lot to think about, haven't they?
They have. And I hope our listener is feeling inspired to kind of explore their own passions. And see how they can weave them together to create something meaningful.
Yeah.
Whether it's through content creation, through community building, or simply by sharing their unique perspective with the world.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what DreadKnots 1's story is all about. Embracing our individuality.
Yeah. Connecting
with others, and using our voices to make the world a little brighter, a little more equitable, and a lot more interesting.
Well said. Couldn't have put it better myself.
So until next time, keep diving deep.
Yeah.
And keep those curiosity gears turning.
Yeah.
You never know what amazing discoveries await you when you dare to explore the depths of your own passions.
Running like a dunnin' in the beat streets with DreadKnots 1, feeling free. The night is young, we on a creative spree. Midnight memories, them, you and me. Heading to the rooftop, gotta chase them views. We a community creating content, making the earth space best. DreadKnots 1, bringing us together like one unique blessed fest. With workshops, tutorials, gaming, apparel, and music, heartbeats pounding. The crypto education is our cue.